Today we're going to work with subtracting mixed numbers, but today we add the idea that we're going to have to borrow. And I also like to call that another word, renaming the fraction. Okay, you are used to borrowing from subtraction. It's still borrowing, but we have to understand how to rename a fraction so that we can do subtraction. Okay? So what I want you to understand is, let's come back to our look at pies. And let's say that these pies were cut into big pieces. Let's say they were just cut into fourths. And let's say that Thanksgiving dinner has not started yet and all of the pie is there. Okay? What I want you to see is that we could call this several things. Okay? First off, aren't these all a fourth? Right? What I want you to see is we could call those three pies several things. Couldn't I just say there's three pies? Right? I could say there's three pies. Or, how many fourths are there? So how many fourths are there? Aren't there 12 fourths? 12 pieces of pie right now, right? So I could say there's 12 fourths, right, pieces of pie. Okay, that's another way that I could say it. There's another way, and this third way is the one that's going to be most important today. Couldn't I say that there are two whole pies, the whole number 2, okay, this one right here and this one right here, and then how many fourths? 4 fourths. Would you agree that's still saying the same thing, just in a different way? There are 2 and 4 fourths. I don't know if you'd say pieces of pie or pies, whatever you want to say. But 2 and 4 fourths is the same thing as these two. But this is the one that we're going to use today when we borrow and rename. Okay? Understanding that these 3 pies are the same thing as 2 and 4 fourths. You basically take one off. Okay? Isn't 3 minus 1 2? Right? And then you call it 2 and 4 fourths. Okay? So, let's get to some examples so you can see how this works. You're going to be asked to subtract, and you will have to, we'll say borrow or rename. Okay? So, let's say that I had this problem. 2 1/3. We'll start with an easier one that already has a common denominator. Then we'll work our way up. 2 1/3 minus 1 2/3. Now what I want you to notice is you've got to be able to see when I need to do this. Do you see that the bottom fraction has a bigger numerator than the top fraction? Right? So 2 is bigger than 1. I have to either borrow or rename. Okay? Now watch carefully. Didn't we just say that I could call 3 pies 2 and 4 fourths pies? So didn't we just take 1 off of the 3? So on this problem, let's take 1 off of this 2 and make it 1 and, well, don't I have, let's work slowly here. Isn't 2 the same thing as 1 3/3? That's how we have to start. understanding that 2 is the same thing as 1 3/3. Does everybody understand that? Okay. But, hold on a minute, how many thirds did I already have? 1/3. So I need to add that 1/3 to the 3/3. So now I have 1 4/3. And if you can get that part of borrowing and renaming, you've got most of the battle beat. Okay? So let's review what I did. We're going to finish the problem in a second. I went to this 2, I took 1 off of it and made it 1. And I said, okay, 2 pies is the same thing as 1 3/3 pies. All right? But I already had a third here, so I had to add it to the 3/3 I already had. So now I have 1 4/3. Now I'm ready to bring this over and subtract. So now I can subtract the 1 2/3 from that. Now I'm ready to subtract. So 4 minus 2 is 2/3. 1 minus 1 is 0. Your answer is just 2/3. Let's do another one. How about 3 1/4 minus 1 3/4? I'm going to pause the video and you try this one on your own. All right, let's see if you did it correctly. 3 is the same thing as 2 4/4. We've talked about that. But I already had 1/4. So I need to add that on to the 4/4 that I have. 4/4 plus 1/4 is 5/4. So now I have 2 5/4, and I'm going to bring over my 1 3/4 and subtract. This is one of the other reasons why I made a big deal about working vertically. It's because I knew this was coming. All right? So now we're ready to subtract. 5 minus 3 is 2. 2 minus 1 is 1. 1 2/4 will reduce to 1 1/2. Let's do one now where we have to get a common denominator first. Because I'm sure you know that they won't all have a common denominator before we start. 7 1/4 minus 2 3/5. Now, I am not ready to rename yet. You cannot rename until you get a common denominator. So we need to do that first. Let's go over to the side someplace and let's write, I'm going to come down here and write out my multiples of 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. Write out my multiples of 5, 5, 10, 15, 20. So both of these fractions need to be changed so they have a 20 down here in the denominator. So on the top, we've been doing this for a few days. On the top fraction, I need to multiply them both by 5. It becomes 5/20. The bottom fraction, I multiply them both by 4. Becomes 12/20. Now we can see that I need to borrow or rename. Do you see that 12 is bigger than 5? So we are going to rename the 7. We're going to take 1 off of it, and we're going to call it 6 20/20. But how many 20ths did I already have? Didn't I already have 5/20? So I need to add that in. I need to add the 5/20. So now I have 6 25/20. It's just like the last two problems we did. We just had to find a common denominator first. Now I'm ready to bring this over and subtract my 2, and make sure you use the 12/20ths. We're ready to subtract now. 25 minus 12 is 13/20ths. 6 minus 2 is 4, and 13/20ths. There's one other situation I need to make you aware of, and it's a problem like this one. A lot of times, they'll write a problem this way. They'll write it horizontally, which messes people up sometimes because they think they need to do it horizontally, but we don't. Let's rewrite this right now vertically. 5 minus 3 and 1/7. Now, the top fraction is missing the fraction part, isn't it? So you can't just put a 1/7 down here. Okay, that would be wrong. I need to rename. I need to borrow. Because I can't take 1/7 from nothing. So we're going to do it the same way that we did it before. We're going to take this 5, we're going to take 1 off of it, and call it 4 and 7/7. But here's what's different about this one. Did I have any sevenths to add on to it? No. This one is ready to subtract right now. Bring over the 3 and 1/7 and subtract. 7 minus 1 is 6. 4 minus 3 is 1. Are there any questions on that problem? Okay. If you just see a whole number minus a mixed number, you know you're going to have to do this renaming thing. Okay? So pay attention to that. And we will stop there for today.